Yeah, let's do this.
And welcome to another episode of the Urban Breakdowns 360 Degrees, bringing you the news you can use so you don't lose. We're going to start this party off with our party girl of Sardines LLC, doing it big and all these things regarding travel. But of course, the pandemic has put a halt on that just a bit. But we're about to get back into the shit. Odie, do your thing. Woo!
All right, so good morning. After a really shitty past couple of weeks, especially for the Black community, uh, I got sidetracked for a second. I was thinking about the You Ain't Black T-shirts, but I'm sure you'll get to that later, Marsh. But anyway, um, yeah, things are looking promising. As always, I'm cautiously optimistic um whenever it comes to some shit that happens when it comes to justice and fairness. But you guys recall we've been talking about this since it was pretty much first put on our radar. For me, that was just a few weeks ago, in spite of the incident happening in February. And I'm referring to Ahmaud Arbery's shooting. Um, the video was released of him basically being trapped and gunned down while he was out jogging. And one person filmed it for that shit was wild to me as it was, but whatever. One person filmed it, and then the father and son who were involved in it were actually responsible for shooting him. They were arrested after the video was released, um, and are facing murder charges. And the only reason at this time we know that happened is just because of public outcry, uh, not because they actually deserve to be, charged with murder. But this week, the third person involved has been arrested also due to additional outcry, led, I would say, largely by Sean King. Uh, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing anybody in that equation, but Sean King, Twitter activist, I mean, not downplaying what he does, but
Right,
he's very popular on Twitter. But
right.
um, so the third suspect, his name is Omar Villafranca. Uh, Wait, hold on. Who's Omar Villafranca? That's not the guy's name though.
No.
What the fuck is the guy's name? I think that was the attorney. But who's
William Roddy Brown Jr. And
William Roddy
let's play a
Brown?
little clip on that before you go into your specifics. That way people get a little background.
Sure.
That sounds like a lie.
Well, dude finally got arrested. Some people, surprisingly, on my timeline were confused by this. Not people that I know, but just like I'd like to. That's a favorite pastime of mine. I mean, who doesn't like to creep in comments and see what people are thinking on very popular and polarizing topics. But I was surprised at the amount of people that were surprised or confused by like why this was a thing. Um, while I haven't seen the video in its entirety, I did see enough to know that he was trapped. And the only way he was trapped in and unable to escape um, the three men that were trying to kill him is because that's why I said like that's why it was a modern day lynching because he ended up having the trucks like kind of triangulate. So any paths that he could try to go back the opposite way, he wasn't able to go. So that's how Ahmaud Arbery got killed. And I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm just annoyed as always that it took as long as it did.
It's one of the reasons why people don't trust the police or the believe that it. I mean, it's basically because they're protected from on high. And then any cop that actually does move to serve and protect, they're the ones who get either they get fired,
Ostracized.
they get
Mm-hmm.
blackballed, stuff like that. So nobody really trusts the cops like that. So I mean, I have friends who uh, are married to cops, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure your husband is amazing, but it's not. It's the system that he works for. That's the problem that we're having here. Because the reason why this took so long to come out is because they were trying to hold on to it and just let it pass. And if it wasn't for the tapes getting leaked, and if it wasn't for people like Sean King spreading it out, we would never know about it.
Yeah, exactly. We basically yeah, that's the bottom line. Like the online memes are saying, they didn't arrest them because of justice. They arrested or because they saw the tape. They arrested them because we saw the tape and
Right.
finally do something about it. So I definitely this is where I'm displaying some cautious optimism because again, just because they've been arrested does not mean they'll actually be convicted or who knows even what amount of time um, they'll get if that's even going to be fair. Um, but I definitely saw that Ida B. Wells' great granddaughter is going to be writing a book about her daughter's life. I mean, her grandmother's life. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. It comes out in 2021. Um, I wonder, and I know that she is focusing on her life, but I do wonder if there'll be any references to all the black men that it doesn't really seem to have changed for since lynchings and things like that during her great grandmother's time. But we
Well,
shall see.
segue back. I mean, there's been also a lot of well, not a lot, but I've seen a couple posts regarding Ahmaud Arbery's like previous arrests and him getting tased by
Yeah,
police officers because of a supposed theft, which ended up not being true. It's almost like they're
we
trying
knew
to
that was coming.
we're
We knew
trying
that
to
was coming though.
paint a negative picture of him to justify a killing which occurred years after such incidents.
Oh, that's always the narrative. I mean, we can formulate this. Um, and that actually brings me into my next my next topic. So one person I'm sure I am very confident they tried to pull this off with was Breonna Taylor, the late Breonna Taylor. For those unfamiliar with the story, Breonna Taylor was, I believe, a nurse or paramedic, but she was basically involved in healthcare. Um, Good woman, had multiple jobs, hardworking. Police bust in her house and killed her in the middle of the night. And when they bust down the door, they never announced that they were police. And her boyfriend or fiance at the time, Kenneth Walker, was back at the cops. Like he ended up shooting one, and the charge that he was faced with was attempted murder. So on a positive note, we found out this week that all the charges against Kenneth Walker were dropped. Again, this is a lot of Sean King involvement here. If he hadn't been involved, I'm sure he would have been thrown under the jail. It's it's bad enough. He probably won't be able to recover in this town. Um, for what happened to him. He's probably going to have to relocate, unfortunately, because they'll definitely have it out for him and try to catch him slipping. But they were unable to find anything on Breonna Taylor, and I'm sure they looked and turned under every fucking rock. But she was just a hardworking woman. Like, just there was nothing to be had there, not from 3 years ago, 2 days ago, before she was killed, or any of that. But we know that that's the formula.
And from what I understand, wasn't it like the police made a grave area? They were like 10 blocks off.
They were at the wrong place, and the person that they were looking for was already arrested. So what the fuck?
Well,
Like,
damn.
they made a lot of mistakes, and they cost her life.
Now, this is what they said in the paper. How true it is, I don't know. But they were saying that the reason why they linked, why I tried to link them together, is because one time a package meant for the address that they ended up arresting the other guy at 10 blocks away showed up at that address, and then Breonna Taylor's car was seen near that house one time. So that was their link, because that's how they feel, like we're all a monolith, and if one black person is a criminal, then we're all criminals and we're all connected in that way. That was their rationale for having a warrant at that house, because they probably figured, well, she must be holding drugs for them. And of course, they didn't find any drugs. And they didn't really find a connection between those two, other than those two paper thin. Put it like this. I have, where I live, long story short, there's another apartment complex that also has a 101 on it, right? I'm 101 from my street. There's another 101, but it's like not that far away. So sometimes when I order food, sometimes they end up there. If I order,
they don't pay attention to the street names.
Yeah, and then sometimes their packages end up at my place. So I'd have to walk it back over to their place, and vice versa. Sometimes it gets on my packages. Now, here's the thing. If those people were criminals, right, that means that because my packages end up there, my food ends up over there, they're going to break into my house and shoot me in my bed. That's absolute terrible police work.
Absolutely.
Not even TV detectives are that dumb. Even the ones who are like supposed to be funny, not even they're that dumb. So it was. Now I'm just too pissed off. Go ahead. But I mean,
especially too, like, again, but what really, really pisses me off too is the fact that this man obviously was a gun owner. If this was the NRA, if this was a white man, then we know the NRA would be involved and, like, literally up in arms, talking shit about how this man was violated in his own home, but they were definitely silent. So one thing I've thought about is, and seen popping up a lot on my line, I can't remember like the acronym, but it's basically the NRA for Black people.
yes.
Or like the NABA or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember the acronym, but there is an association for Black people, because we do have a very set of specific needs that are different from white counterpart gun owners. Like, they're buying guns for different reasons. We're buying guns to protect ourselves from shit like this. But I'm certainly thinking about joining when I finally secure my weapon, just because this is some bullshit. Like, I feel like that should be the primary goal of the organization. If not, I mean, outside of education and outside of education, it should be to be political when things like this happen, and make sure that those owners are protected.
I remember when I got my first gun. Ooh, boy. You remember Juice?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, it got pretty bad. And when I got rid of my gun, life returned to normal. I was a normal person again. But when I had my gun, I used to stay in trouble, stay getting in somebody's ass. Just felt I was on some Superman shit. And let me tell you something about this gun. It was a 25 I don't know if you know anything about guns, but it's about this big with a pearl pink handle. But I thought it was the hardest thing in that area where I was at the time. And man, it got bad. And it's just like, it's almost like your interactions change. At least for me, my interactions change. So if somebody stepped on my shoe in the past, I'm like, oh man, my bad. You know, it might have been like that. But with Pearly, I'm gonna be, nigga, I'll shoot your ass, bitch. And it was like a whole change of demeanor and feelings, you know, at least for me, you know what I'm saying? So I know I can't be
Trust me,
a gun owner.
not just
Yeah, you got to know yourself, but no.
it's not just you. And the problem is that there are some people who have a complex where like they get a gun like Bernard Getz in New York years ago, back in the 80s, you know, or even the guy, long story short, we talked about on the show a couple years back, that guy that got killed by those two Bundy Ranch rejects, the one that shot all those cops at that Walmart. Only reason why he got killed is because he had a gun and he figured, well, I'm going to be the hero. And they got the drop on him and killed him because they had told everybody else, we're just here for these cops. All of you can go. But he didn't go only because he had a gun. And he figured, I'm going to be the hero. And that got him killed because he didn't realize that the guy and that other girl were together. And she got the drop on him and they shot him. But if he didn't have a gun, he would have left with everybody else. So it does change the, you know, and here's the thing. I've never owned a gun in my life. I've never fired a gun in my life. But who's to say that if I were to get a gun, that I wouldn't end up in trouble like that? You know? So maybe it's best I don't have a gun. It doesn't mean come rob me. It basically, because I do swing a very mean baseball bat. If I catch you slipping, you're going to get brained. But it just means that, you know, I mean, everybody don't need a gun. But at the same time, we're getting to the point where we got to defend ourselves because we're just getting picked off one by one out here. And then if this story is any indication, when that happens to us, there's not going to be any justice, or at least not easy justice that it would be if someone else were in that same situation.
Well, I go running pretty much every day, jogging, walking, whatever. And normally I didn't used to take it with me, but now I take my pistol with me everywhere. I told you guys I did my CWP class or whatever the other day and all that good stuff and got it in order. But now I run with my gun on me everywhere I go. So it's like the comfortability of just being an average, normal American, no matter what your skin color is. It just isn't there for Black people, no matter how much we would like for it to be, no matter how comfortable we get, it's just not there. Like I live in the country. Like I live on the side of Greenville, which is way away from the city. I live in an area called Piedmont in Greenville County. Ain't nothing back here but, I'm gonna say it, rednecks, white people. A lot of Black people too, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of them too. It's pretty, I would say it's like 60-40, but it's in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know. It's just one of them things where I'm gonna come across a lot more of them than anything. It's one thing to be, you know, hollered out the window by somebody, and the next, you know, you got some big jacked up truck with some drunk white boy coming up to you. Well, I got something for that. So.
And it's not Cuda Cuda. Woohoo! All right.
Oh my God. I'm so done.
It's a shame that it has to be that way, though, you know?
Yeah.
That people got to get guns just to feel safe. I mean, you know, my brother, he's, I mean, even though he was in the military, I mean, he fought in the first Desert Storm, you know? But until all this stuff started happening, you know, he's basically the patriarch of his family. So now he has guns basically to protect his family in case some dumb shit happens. And before, 10 years ago, I'll even say 10, 15 years ago, I might have been saying, nah, that's kind of far-fetched, bro. Now I'm just like, look, just make sure the safety's on so the kids don't get hurt. You know, make sure you got a gun safe. Make sure you teach some kids about gun safety. Because now I'm just like, it's almost necessary now. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, like, I thought about getting a gun, but I'm like, I'd probably end up shooting myself in the foot before I shot somebody else. I'd be like Don Knotts, shakiest gun in the West. You know, I don't know how to use a gun. And I don't really have a desire to use a gun. But then again, I may need one day to protect myself, which really shouldn't have to happen at my age, you know? But things are getting really real out here. There's too many Dylan Roofs out there.
My suggestion is always going to be, you have the right to own whatever you want to own. I can't remember if you guys put it in group or if it was another one of my groups, but someone dropped a link about maybe you just mentioned it. I can't remember, but it was like a black group where they have like, their gun events and they come together and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked into it, and I think the fee like annually is like $600 something, but you had to have your CWP, and of course everything had to be lawful under American air quotes here laws. But I'm thinking about doing it. I ran it past my friend, and he was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, because the more black people that lawfully hold guns, I feel like it's not gonna change anything too drastic, but it's gonna slow them motherfuckers down at some point. Because let's be real, on the flip side of it, we do have a problem in the black community and the larger minority areas where our gun handling is either illegal or we're hurting each other with the gun. I would much rather see the total opposite of that, some type of a turnaround, and also the education for people to lawfully own guns without feeling like they're doing anything wrong. Because I have plenty of guns, and I bought one last week, and I'm probably gonna buy another one this weekend for the fuck of it. Own a gun. I have guns everywhere. My kids know not to touch them, which most of them you can't see. You're not supposed to be able to see. But like the one in my dash, it's there. And like they said in the state of South Carolina, all you have to do is have it in an area where there's a lock between it, but you don't necessarily have to have it locked. If you have a CWP, you can drive with it under your seat, completely loaded, period. So there's so many different things that people don't know, and so many things that could save the lives of a lot of black people, including when he was jogging. Like, you have the right, even in the state of Georgia, we had to learn Georgia laws because we have what's called reciprocity in South Carolina, where when we go over the Georgia border, we can carry in their state as long as you hold the CWP. So I'm pretty sure he could have owned one.
Yep. Oh, he definitely could have. I mean, we know that the so-called vigilantes were out there holding, so he absolutely could have. Their holding guns is not the problem. It's them choosing to execute their brand of justice that cost him his life, instead of just calling the police if they really suspected that. So, but those are two pieces of good news for the community that I wanted to share, and that's the kind of energy I'm on this week. And that's all I got.
You a lie. You got Quavo.
Oh shit, yeah. Quavo. There you go. My bad.
Oh, wait.
See, I need
Let the
to
clip
keep you
play.
on track.
Let the clip play.
Okay, there you go. It's kind of low, Blue.
Yeah.
All right, then. We're just going to pause that. And you go ahead and talk over it.
So Quavo is 1/3 of the Migos that we all know and tolerate for the most part. But I just thought this was a really cute story because Quavo, I think, is 29 years old, and he just graduated high school. So I just think that's really cool. The fact that he has money, so he didn't have to go back to school. This was clearly something he did for himself. And I just think that's really cool that he did that. And it's a good example to the kids, regardless of how you feel about their music or any other shit that they talk in. He finally got his high school diploma. So shout out to Quavo.
Oh, you should have just said that. No matter how you feel about their music, Mercer. Because I
can't be mad at that.
I do not like Migos in the least. I think their music is trash. But I do think that Quavo graduating from high school is very inspiring, and it may inspire other people who dropped out of high school.
Out of the genre of that particular music style, Quavo, the Migos actually has one of the better sounds, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I think I put Migo on top of everybody in the trap scene. You know what I'm saying? Even Future.
Even over Future? No.
Yeah, I don't like Future at all.
I cannot. I do not understand the hype with Future. but I ain't gonna tell nobody else to stop listening
Yeah, I
because
don't
I don't
understand why
listen.
they're so infatuated with it. All Future wants me to do is drink, surf, and do Percocets. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. Another thing, maybe what I don't like about Future is more about how he moves, how he navigates his life. I just think that I want to see an artist at a certain level, and I just shouldn't see them or hear about them doing some really ratchet shit continuously. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. And now he got this movement come out, she for the streets and everything's for the streets. But this nigga for the streets, in my opinion, is based on the way he moved. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm for what it's worth to him. I'm proud of him for doing it. You
Yeah,
know,
definitely, definitely. I
and
think it's a
I
good
hope.
role model for a lot of these trap boys that might be not be in the streets as much anymore to get back on their A game and knock out some of these goals. You know what I'm saying?
And just to know that it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late.
Yep, it's never too late. Absolutely. Okay, so yeah. So shout out to Quavo. And yeah, that's all I got on the positive news tip.
All right, all right. Merk.
Yeah. I will say this.
And now the show goes a little left.
I got into it with a friend of mine not too long before the show, and he says the same thing he always says when I won't bow to his wisdom. I'm putting wisdom in the quotations. Like, I'm done. I'm like, why you always start? Because you know how it's gonna end. You know it's gonna end with me annoying the shit out of you, and then you just be like, I'm done. You know?
Well, I hope that I've made the introduction to a new teammate or somebody you can tag team and have backup with when it comes
Yeah,
to these
yeah.
online debates in Everett. Shout out to Everett.
You know what's funny? He sent me. I was thinking, I'm like, I should send him a friend request, and then like an hour later, he sent me a friend request. I'm like, dope. And here's the thing: even if you're somebody who I agree with, I'm gonna say something you're not gonna like.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not.
Because the
We
more
just
I
said this.
talk,
We're not
the more
monolithic people.
yeah, the more I talk, the more chance it is I'm gonna say something that you don't like.
That's an excellent point. Let me do a quick segue. Yeah, yesterday I had a board meeting for one of my nonprofits, and it was like, oh, we're gonna go forward with taking over teen court and such in Alamance, and I was like, financially, it not so much financially, it's just logistically it didn't work because we're a rural nonprofit and we're really good at doing what we do in a rural setting. But by taking over Alamance, we take over a large city like Greensboro, and it's just like, I say, we're not there yet. You know what I'm saying? We need a little bit more foundation. And then you almost have groupthink going on. So people saying yes, 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 yes. And I almost went into groupthink and said yes too, but I didn't agree with it. So I know, and I was the only one to say no. Even though I knew that people felt that it wasn't the move to make, but they just wanted to align themselves with certain people because they said yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I go through now with all my friends. They've literally given up because they're just like, well, it's lesser two evils, so I guess we just gotta take the lesser evil. They're like, Joe Biden's not as racist as Trump, so I guess he's better. And here's the thing about Joe. The screenshot we have in front of us, Joe Biden was on the Breakfast Club, which I will tell you right now is a terrible, terrible move because Joe Biden can't control himself. He's got like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist. People have been throwing around the whole dementia thing. I'm not going to say he has dementia. That's not for me to say that he has it or not. But he's definitely in cognitive decline. You could tell by the things he says and his mannerisms. People, if you have elderly parents or elderly relatives, you kind of see the signs, and it's not something to laugh at. I've had my fun with Joe Biden, but it's not anything to laugh at. But Joe Biden has always been the gaffe master. He's always said dumb things, even before his cognitive decline. So now it's just more of it.
But I will say, as a regular listener of the Breakfast Club, I remember Charlemagne about maybe 2 months ago, and he was really actually, yeah. What month are we in now? Fuck, May. Yeah, so like probably February, March, where there were like a shit ton of Democratic candidates during the primaries.
Yeah,
and I remember he called out Joe all the time. He was like, oh, like basically y'all don't want no smoke. Like, why aren't you coming to the show? Because all the other candidates would come through, Andrew Yang and
Yeah.
a lot of people would come through.
But I think I
Even like the
fixed.
left Pete Buttigieg, like all of them would
Mm-hmm.
come through, and he would call them out and just be like, "Yeah, Joe, like y'all don't want no smoke. If you're supposed to be the front runner,
There you
then
go.
you should come to the
There you
show."
go.
And especially as popular as the Breakfast Club is amongst Black voters,
Black and
uh,
brown. Let's get it right. Black
Black
and
and
brown.
brown in the age range of what, like I would say 25
18
to
to 35.
44. Yeah,
45
I
maybe.
would say it's even higher. I would say as high as 45 probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many people they're touching. So it's a huge demographic and opportunity, and it's like you're gonna have to come to the Breakfast Club. You're gonna have to. And we knew that Charlemagne didn't really care for him because he was always like on his shit of, like, what's your Black agenda? Because he would ask
Right.
all the candidates that.
Right.
And I think Joe, for the longest, we all know, has not really had an answer for that. It's more like, well, look at my best friend, Barack Obama. And
That's my Black agenda. I already did it. But hold on, let me see. I
that
think
don't count,
I think I
bitch.
fixed the problem with the sound. Let me tell you. Let me know if it's a go.
Looks like Joe Biden has stuck his foot all the way in his mouth.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
In an interview with The Breakfast Club co-host Charlemagne, the presidential hopeful made an egregious comment that has people questioning if he's worthy of their vote. Towards the end of the almost 20-minute interview, Charlemagne touched on an issue of great concern. Who will be Joe's running mate?
Black people saved your political life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you, and one of them is a Black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple Black women being considered. Multiple.
Charlemagne had a follow-up question, but got interrupted by someone off camera saying their time was up. The radio host instead invited Biden to come back, but Joe's response was off-putting.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't Black.
The comment may have been directed just at Charlemagne, but it plays into the false notion that Democrats own the Black vote and don't have to earn the Black vote. Furthermore, a privileged white man does not get to dictate what is and isn't Black. And unfortunately for Joe, Twitter is on a tirade, calling him entitled, an idiot, and wondering if he truly is the lesser of two evils. But what do you think? Is Biden the better choice over Trump? Let us know in the comment section below.
I will say this. Biden is the better choice over Trump the same way that melanoma is the
Looks
better
like
choice
Joe
over
Biden has
colon
stuck.
cancer. That's my thing. Being less shitty does not make you the better candidate. It just means you're the less shitty candidate. And that's what people are just not figuring out about Joe Biden.
The crazy thing is, it's not like he was even prompted or like goaded into answering a question. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to say that at all. Like,
exactly. So it wasn't like he was answering the question.
He just easy said, I'll be there in New York when I come to New York.
That's it. That's it. And that would have been the end of it.
And by the way, he just came out and just offered that up. They already have T-shirts, right?
So
the Trump
about
campaign.
Those T-shirts, yeah, go ahead.
And those T-shirts cost $30 already. I'm like, look.
Whoa. Who has the T-shirts? Does the Democratic Party have the T-shirts?
No, the Trump campaign.
And what they say?
They say you ain't Black. But my thing is, hold up, shouldn't they say I ain't Black? Because if I put I ain't Black on my T-shirt, then that means the insinuation is that I'm voting for Donald Trump.
I think they did just to put, because that hashtag was going on Twitter, the hashtag you ain't Black.
Yeah, but that doesn't even.
Whoa. The Trump campaign did that?
Trump campaign did that.
Says you ain't Black.
That's crazy to me.
In a day. This happened yesterday morning. And by yesterday evening, they already had T-shirts out.
And this is on the website, like Trump for president?
Yeah. And then they had some Black woman modeling it. And we were talking about, I have a chat with some friends of mine from my Bernie Sanders group, and one of them was like, I wonder what she got paid to do that.
What's wrong with the Matrix?
She does not have that T-shirt on. What they do is those are always like
a virtual overlay.
Yeah, they're virtual models. They're not.
Oh, okay. They just put
on a black T-shirt, and then they'll change the letters. They'll change the saying.
They just Photoshop it. I joked about it though. I said if they paid her, they should have paid her in Golden Corral gift certificates because that's what she'll be eating on Thanksgiving. She ain't gonna be able to go home if she modeled for that on her own.
Luckily, her face ain't up there. She gonna be all right. But yeah, they took it's a stock photo that they just photoshopped different sayings on T-shirts onto.
I mean, I'll put it like this, right? What they said in the voiceover was absolutely correct. Because my friends would be like, well, why are you defending Trump fans? Because we rag on conservatives all the time. I rag on black conservatives all the time. Candace Owens, Tim Scott, and even some of these centrists like Simone Sanders, what's his name? Dr. Jason Johnson. Like I said, I crack on Jason Johnson. That doctor is like a rap name because he says the dumbest things. And every time I say Dr. Jason Johnson, I have to resist the urge to go West Side because I don't think he's a real doctor. I think it's like a rap name for him. But I rag on these people all the time. But here's the thing. I've never, even somebody as despicable as Candace Owens, I've never questioned their blackness. I question their intentions toward the black community because what they do is dangerous because they give license to people who are racist and who are dangerous, who do want to do us harm, and it gives them a black face to hide behind. That's why I'm against them so much. It's not because we have different political ideologies. Hell, I have different political ideologies with my friends, and at one point we were in the same party. So it's not about having a different political ideology. It's about being dangerous. What Joe Biden does right now in this thing is dangerous because he's being arrogant. And he's being arrogant to the point where he just feels, well, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Guess what, Joe? I guess I'm not black then because I ain't voting for you.
I'm not black, I'm brown. Down, whoopie down. Productions, of course. Our music be funkin'.
He thinks that all black people should just lay their vote down at their feet and get nothing for it. That's the problem, you know? And a lot of black people are either, a good amount now, are either saying, well, you know, I'll vote for the Republicans, which is basically like people saying, well, I don't like these vampire hunters, so I'm going to go hang with the vampires.
Obama was like, yo, bro, yo, Joe, you know you fucked up, right?
Basically, I mean...
What you mean? You know you fucked up, right?
and you know that dude on the side was trying to cut Joe. That's why that interview was only 18 minutes, because they were just trying to cut Joe before he said something stupid, and then it was like too late. Like that dude.
Yeah, he started coming unhinged, just like whoop whoop whoop.
You could just see it in his eyes.
He was supposed to dead that mic. Once he said he was gonna come to New York, mic cut, mute.
Use him on Zoom. Give somebody admin privileges. You know that's probably what they're gonna do from now on. Is like control his mute privileges.
Yeah. But the worst part was he said the one thing that he should not have said, and that was check my record. Hey, tell you what, Joe, I've already checked your record. Your record fucking sucks.
That shit was wild though. I was like,
he's like, what? Like check my record. I'm like, oh yeah, I did, Joe. Bankruptcy bill, which put a lot of people into poverty. Crime bill, which put a lot of people in prison unnecessarily. I'm pretty sure a good amount of those people, I haven't looked into it, this is just an assumption, that a lot of those people who Obama pardoned on the federal level, right? Because they've been in prison way too long. I'm willing to bet you cash money that some of those people were put there due to Joe Biden's crime bill. And then I always get people who come back to me and they say, well, you know, and you can almost hear the smugness in what they write. Well, your hero, Bernie Sanders, voted for the crime bill. What do you think about that? Well, here's the thing about that. They put the Violence Against Women Act in the crime bill just to get people like Bernie Sanders, who was against the crime bill, to vote for it. How do I know that? Because that's what Bernie Sanders said. Bernie Sanders, and you could hear the speeches he did on C-SPAN, he was like, I was totally against this bill, right? I don't think this is the way we need to handle this situation, but I can't not vote for the Violence Against Women Act because it was important. So I voted for it, but I don't like the fact that I voted for it. And you know what?
See, that's bullshit. He should have been like, nah, we'll just come back and get that on another bill. Nah, I don't believe that shit.
But the problem is, when was it going to get on its own bill? That's the problem.
Can't Bernie make a resolution? Can't Bernie pull forth a law or whatever it's called? You know what I'm saying? Can't other senators do it?
But think about it. That was like what, 94. So that was what, more than 20 years ago. Now, could Bernie do it now? Yes, because
Why
now
couldn't
he
he
has
do
a
it
lot
then?
more pull because he didn't have that much pull back then. He didn't have the pull that he has now.
He was 10 years in the game minimum. I think 20 years in the game at that point.
Yeah. But it still takes a long time to build those inroads when you're an independent. That's the thing.
Oh, he was an independent back then?
Oh, he's always been an independent.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only problem with being an independent. You get to keep your values, but unfortunately, it's harder to make those inroads because they always put him down as he's an independent who caucuses with Democrats. And because he's not willing to take that corporate money, it's kind of like when you watch those cop shows, right? Who do they always not trust? The honest cop who doesn't take the kickbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that cop is always the outsider. That's who Bernie was, the honest cop who didn't take kickbacks. And all the other cops hated him, you know? But the problem that we're having now with the Democrats is that they're moving too far to the right because they figure, well, if we, do for these black people and progressives
all the way.
If we do that, then unfortunately we have to give up some of our power, But the problem is, actually, that's a great segue, Blue. There have been a lot of polls that have come out lately that now is that a clip, Blue?
Oh, it ain't no video. No, I see the videos was fucking up. I'm about to figure that part out.
The problem that we have with these polls is that depending on the poll and depending on how these polls are done, like for instance, the poll that's here that we have up on the screen now, right? They have Trump beaten Biden by it's like 46.1, 42% for Joe Biden, 11% undecided, right? And what was that? Nexstar, Ohio State, Emerson College poll, right?
The crazy thing is, when I was doing my research, every state had its own differentiation. Like nobody was consistent. In fact, this is the only one where I found that Donald Trump was winning. And in Donald Trump's own polls, he was losing.
Yes, and that's, I think that's a problem. And the reason why it's a problem is because of who's running. Because anybody else would just see it as, like, why do you think Michael Jordan has 6 rings? Because Michael Jordan don't stop playing in the third quarter when they're up by 20. He plays until the final buzzer.
Forget what he has. Look what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has.
He's
the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what did Hillary do? When Hillary was up in the polls, what did she do? It was halfway through the third quarter, she stopped playing, and then she lost. And Joe Biden's going to do the same thing because now they're going to figure, hey, if we're up in these polls and these young people and these black people and these progressives aren't voting for me, and we're getting all these suburban wine moms and never Trumpers, then we don't got to do shit for them. So fuck them. We're just going to coast to the finish line. Don't forget, there's still 5 months left until the election. A lot could happen in 5 months. So
a lot is going to happen in 5 months.
Yes, because
they better spend that money.
They figure that Trump's handling of the coronavirus is going to be a nail in his coffin. But you have to remember that these are people who stick by Trump no matter what. So long as Trump toes that racist line, they're going to stick to him.
And as long as the virus ain't really around as much in that time period, we have very fleeting memories. We're not going to really think about this as much as a basis of our vote.
Exactly. We have the memories of goldfish. Put it like this. My friend was getting on me because he said I'm too emotional. I'm surprised he didn't say I was hysterical. But he said you're all up in your feelings, you're emotional. You have to look at the cold logic of it. I'm like, let me tell you something. Logic is not getting me out of bed on election day. Emotion is getting me out of bed on election day because you're excited to vote for somebody, And an emotion will get me out of bed on election day because we have a chance to get Tom Tillis out of office. I'm in North Carolina, and Tom Tillis has a very, very tough competitor in Cal Cunningham, right? So whether I vote for
I like
Biden,
Tillis. I'm voting for Tillis. I like him.
Tom Tillis, our resident cockroach. But we have a chance to get Tillis out of office, so I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that chance.
Tillis emails me directly. I feel like
He's like, has Cal Cunningham emailed me? No. All he did was show up at my house and shake my hand, but he didn't email me. No.
and didn't practice social distancing when he did it.
You know, that's the one thing I laugh about the Joe Biden campaign is that I got so many emails from Bernie. I've donated to Bernie's campaign like twice, I think. And I get texts and emails from them all the time. I've gotten them from other campaigns too. So like Klobuchar's and Buttigieg and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, I think I may have gotten one from Kamala Harris. But
I be talking mad shit in them texts. I think they got bots because they do not deter from the script.
Yeah. Oh, they're definitely bots. But they but they do reach out, you know. But I don't think I ever remember. I think maybe one text from Biden's camp, and definitely none since since Bernie dropped out. Because he figures we don't have to, you know. Why do you think Bernie Sanders had so much steam going in? Even though he lost, and yes, I understand he lost, but Bernie's ground game was amazing. So he had a whole bunch of volunteers and a whole bunch of staffers who went, you know, people just knocking on doors, you know, all day long, talking to people about, I mean, of course, obviously before the pandemic, but people were inspired by him. They weren't just like bleep, bleep, blarp, I must support Bernie. No, these people were excited about Bernie and excited about what he brought to the table. Yes, they were running on emotion. You know, so this whole thing about, oh, you all up in your feelings, you know, cold logic, man, fuck that shit. Because cold logic is not getting me out of bed if it's raining on election day, if I have to vote for somebody who I don't like. But if I'm voting for somebody who I do want, and it's raining or thunderstorms, I'll just call Uber. I'll get a raincoat. I'll get 2 umbrellas. I'll make it to that polling place based on emotion. You know, that's what people just don't understand. But they're reading these polls saying that Trump is going to lose in a landslide, and that's bad news for the Democrats because they're going to stop playing in the third quarter. And they're going to lose just like they did last time. And who are they going to blame? They should blame themselves for not getting enough suburban wine moms to vote for them, I guess. I can't believe that's actually a term. I've been hearing it on the news lately, suburban wine moms. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
That's what I was about to say. What does that mean?
I have no clue, but I've been hearing it so much lately, like, you know, that Democrats are going after the suburban wine mom vote. What, they just have these women who are at the parks smashed on wine all day, you know, with their kids in the strollers. Like, what does that even mean?
But I'm like, bitch, I'm not a mom and I don't live in the suburbs, but I love wine. So like what is the demographic here? Like, who are you really talking about?
I was about to say, I subscribe to a wine.
And
I have a wine subscription. So
I drink liquor. Why aren't you catering to me? You know what I'm saying? I live in a city. You know what I'm saying? Why don't you cater to the city liquor drinking homies?
I live in the out in the middle of nowhere. I guess this isn't the suburbs. It's a rural area, and I have a wine subscription. So do I count?
Well, it all depends. I mean,
do.
Yeah. I mean, you count to me. I don't know how Joe feels about it.
I know how I feel about it.
I'm so stuck with you.
But you know, when I saw those stories about the whole, you know, Biden's supposed to win in a landslide, I'm like, no, he's not. It's going to be, whether Biden wins or loses, is going to be a tight race. It ain't going to be no landslide. Because you figure it's kind of like, I don't know, Don Knotts versus Inspector Clouseau. You understand? You have 2 serial bunglers running for office. There's not going to be a landslide in this. It's going to be a tight race, and they're going to need every single vote they can. And if they quit in the third quarter because they figure we're up by 20, you know, talk about in basketball terms, they're going to they're gonna lose in the fourth
They
quarter.
have to have a debate. The debate is going to be so hilarious. Oh my god, that's gonna be the make or break across the board. Because they both, in my opinion, actually, I don't think Trump is stupid. I think he's very cunning and he does what he needs to do for his base. But Biden, on the other hand, I'm not saying he's stupid, but he has cognitive decline, and this is going to be a concern. You dig?
Yeah.
This is gonna be. We're gonna have meme and viral content through 2021.
Yeah.
When they start getting into these debates.
One of my friends already had a meme up about this whole flub that he did. It had Joe Biden in blackface, and he was like, "I voted for me, so I'm black now." And I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be a long 5 months. This year can't end quick enough. It really cannot. This is just gonna be." And you know what I was waiting for, and I was not disappointed. Before we go on, real quick, the minstrel show that's going to go on MSNBC defending Joe Biden. And Simone Sanders was already first. And he was just joking. You know who says that about their guy when they make up, when they say something stupid? Trump. What do Trump's people say when he says something dumb? Trump was just joking. So, but.
He is a comedian, though. He do say some funny shit, yo.
Don't get me wrong.
This cat he is kind of funny.
He does, I mean, the funniest stuff he's ever said for me is when he was ragging on the other candidates. I mean, when he was cracking on Ted Cruz, that was just mean. But when he was ragging on Marco Rubio, I have to admit that was kind of funny. I have to admit I chuckled a bit when he was ragging on Marco Rubio. But he bodied these guys because he was the outsider, and now he's the ultimate insider. You know.
There you go.
And in any other situation, Biden would lose in a landslide. But this pandemic may just work out for him. We'll just have to wait and see.
That's right. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Urban. I'm sorry, any last words?
Stay your ass home. Woo!
No, we in phase 2 now. We ain't got to stay home no more.
Especially if you're
Stay
black.
your ass home if you can. Just because they say you can doesn't mean you should. Stay your ass home.
Yeah, you got to use your common sense.
I don't know. I need a haircut bad.
Well, my hairstylist isn't even open yet. She's staying her ass home. She's like using her discernment to say, nope, I'm gonna stay my ass home.
I actually cut my beard today.
You can do you, but I'm gonna stay my ass home until there's a
I think I'm just gonna
this.
twist it until this shit is over. Yeah. It's long enough to twist. I probably got a good 3-4 inches on it.
We all know that the government never ever lies to people. So if you know that, then by all means go out.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Urban Breakdown podcast. Available on all streaming platforms except iHeartRadio, bitch ass, including YouTube. You can listen via flip phone or home phone at 1-857-385-7045. But hopefully you got a smartphone and you can listen to it via any app you choose that supports podcasts, except iHeartRadio, bitch ass. All right.